Hello everyone, my name is Omari Stringer and I'm going to be talking to you about the War on Terror and its contributions to the growing abuses of human rights. Now, the War on Terror is a broad term. Who is terror and how do we fight them exactly? A more accurate description would be the war on militant Islamic extremist groups, who are commonly defined as terrorists. With strong public support after the 9/11 attacks, President Bush declared a war on terror, and with that the subsequent invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan began. Without consequence, so began an era of abuses of not just human rights, but justice as well. So the first topic I'm going to talk about is the Abu Ghraib prison abuse, and this was a scandal in Iraq in 2004, which involved U.S. soldiers abusing Iraqi prisoners of war. Now this brings up the question of torture and whether we use this in Iraq and whether we had the right to do so. The other allegations include sodomy, verbal and physical abuse, and now this constitutes a massive abuse of human rights, in addition to violations of international treaties on the standards of treatment of enemies, combatants, or prisoners of war. My next topic is Guantanamo Bay. Now this is a naval detention facility housed in Cuba, which is under United States property. And basically we use this camp to detain terrorists who are awaiting trial or who we deem to be too dangerous to bring to America. Now there have been many untold stories of abuse and torture there. The living conditions are very poor and there's even little to no information about the legal defense that's available to the terrorists. Many political candidates have promised to improve this camp or even close it, but there have been no substantiated claims. Even President Obama has campaigned on closing Guantanamo, and yet it still remains open to this day. My next topic is a somewhat controversial one, and that's of drone strikes. Now, I'm going to talk to you about a project called Living Under Drones, and it's basically a collaboration between Stanford and NYU's law schools in order to bring information to the public about civilians killed during U.S. drone strikes. Wired magazine recently covered a piece illustrating what life would be like if America was covered under drones. Now this piece features movies made by documentary makers and simulating what drones look like over American skies. The word drone has gained a negative connotation over the last decade, and that's mostly due to the use of it profusely through Pakistan and Yemen. Now I would consider the use of drones to be the ultimate abuse of human rights, because children and families are being killed for just associating with suspected terrorists, this indiscriminate killing of non-American citizens. Now there's an app that's recently come out called Metadata Plus, and that's basically allows the members of the public to see what's happening in Pakistan and Yemen in real time. It's an app that updates every time there's a drone strike. Now, again, like I said, it's a controversial issue. It's entirely different than conventional warfare of days of past. So there's a lot more collateral damage without any regard for human life or property. And when you remove that human element, it's the pilot in the middle of America flying a drone in Pakistan or Yemen, you get a disconnect between the pilot and the people on the ground that are being killed. Now my next topic is the invasion of privacy that the War on Terror brings. And this is executed through the Fourth Amendment, which I'm going to read for you. And I quote, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly by describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." So while not explicitly stated, it's basically generally agreed that the Fourth Amendment provides American citizens with the right to privacy. And in recent times, this right has been waived in the name of national security by the United States government. Now, falling under the Fourth Amendment abuses is the Patriot Act. And the official title is the USA Patriot Act, which is actually a clever acronym designed by Congress to stir up patriotic support. So the full title and acronym is Uniting and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism Act of 2001. And this is interesting because this act was only passed after 48 hours with quick deliberation, and only one senator voted against it and only 60 representatives in the House of Representatives out of 435. So you can see the slim margins voting against. This act basically removes the probable cause that we have established in the Constitution, as well as judicial review for warrants for terrorists or wiretaps on terrorists. And this leads as a gateway to the NSA spying scandals that we've been recently hearing about in the news. And with that is, they use the Patriot Act to conduct searches on thousands and thousands, even millions of pages and bytes of data that may be used by terrorists. And following again, Fourth Amendment is the right of habeas corpus, and that means produce the body in Latin. And basically this means the government cannot bring you into trial without issuing a warrant and you being in court for the trial. And we've seen this with the use of drone strikes. They eliminate the trial process entirely and go to execution by killing these terrorists. They even went so far as to kill an American citizen named Anwar al-Awlaki. Now, granted, he was a member of Al-Qaeda. The United States government did not bring him back to America for trial, like proper procedure. Now, I recognize the need for military and or executive intelligence communities, such as the NSA, to have certain liberties suspended to pursue a criminal or terrorist. I even agree that some of the provisions in these acts are necessary. But I would like for there to be more accountability and to not have unconstitutional acts covered up under the auspices of national security. I do not believe in unregulated blank check for the government to hunt terrorists. Now, imagine being at a wedding of a friend or family. It's a very joyous occasion, and for everyone, and many are gathered to celebrate. Suddenly, a faint buzzing occurs overhead, followed by a cloud of explosions raining down on you. Chaos ensues, and you find that many people you know have been severely injured or killed. Now, imagine you have no idea why this attack occurred or who brought this attack upon your family. This begins to paint a picture of what life in Pakistan or Yemen is like under the cloud of U.S. drones. As an American, I understand the importance of national security and preventing terrorism around the world. I'm incredibly thankful for the troops who have and currently serve overseas. But as our global war on terror winds down over the next few years, I would like the United States to address some of the errors that it's made and try to right some of the wrongs that's happened over the past few years. First off, they could make amendments to the Patriot Act, which would protect freedoms of Americans. Let's have comprehensive reform to Guantanamo Bay, or even shut it down entirely and get those prisoners the proper process. And we need to form some kind of treaty or agreement with Yemen or Pakistan to regulate the seemingly unrestricted use of drones and to address the massive collateral damage that they cause. With a few simple provisions as we move on, we can end the abuse to human rights and begin to foster in a new era of justice. Thank you.